complete Board of Appeals on. All right, we are now starting the live stream. We're going to wait a few minutes before we have the entire Board of Appeals present. Board of Appeals. Okay, Susan, can you hear us?
Yes, sorry, I'm late. I'm sorry.
It's fine. We'll go ahead and get started. I want to like to call this meeting of the West Virginia Democratic Party Board of Appeals to order. This is our first meeting of this Board of Appeals, and I appreciate everybody's time today, and especially coming together on a federal holiday. And this is in the grievance brought to us from Selena Vickers against Anna Gillespie, president of West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women, Belinda Beafor, historian and officer of the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women and the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women. And our executive director, Ryan Frankenberry, is joining us. And if you could post the meeting agenda, please.
Sure thing. I'm going to put it in the chat just so that it's there, and I'm also going to put it on the screen.
You could put it on the big screen, that'd be good. There we go. Okay. All right. I'm gonna this is the agenda that was used the last time there was a hearing, and that was prior to my being chair and prior to this board being appointed. So this is the agenda that and rules that we inherited. So I'm going to go over the Board of Appeals rules, of course, adopted by the West Virginia Democratic Party Board of Appeals November 2nd, 2021. The Board of Appeals procedures. The order for considering grievances pending before the Board of Appeals shall be scheduled by the BOA chair in accordance with the bylaws of the West Virginia Democratic Party, and those bylaws are in Article 7, Section B. The grievance and respondents may attend the hearing to deliver a statement and answer questions from the Board of Appeals committee members, and if they should arise. Only individuals named as a party in the individual grievance will be allowed to address the Board of Appeals. The grievant is allowed 15 minutes for presentation. The respondent is allowed 15 minutes for a presentation. The Board of Appeals is allowed 15 minutes for debate and to ask the grievance respondents questions should they arise. The grievant is allowed 3 minutes to present summary remarks. The respondent is allowed 3 minutes to present summary remarks. Sorry, pages are sticking together. And the Board of Appeals, after hearing all evidence and affording all parties a full opportunity to be heard, shall deliberate and render judgment on the appeal by a majority vote. That's also in the bylaws, Article 7, Section B. The chair will entertain a motion for the disposition of the pending grievance. At that time, 15 minutes is allowed for debate on that motion, with time equally divided between proponents and opponents. At the conclusion of the debate, the motion shall be put to a vote. Only members of the Board of Appeals present at the meeting may propose a motion. In the event the motion is not adopted, the chair will continue to recognize Board of Appeals members for the purpose of offering other motions until a motion is approved. If no motion is pending, the chair may ask for either a motion to recess or a motion to fix the time to which to adjourn to allow for the preparation of additional motions. Let's see, no secret ballot shall be permitted at any stage of the Board of Appeals proceedings. The recognized votes shall be aye and nay, and voting shall be by voice vote, division, roll call, or electronically via a feature of video conferencing platform. When the question has been put, the vote thereon may not be interrupted for any purpose other than a demand for a roll call vote. Any point of order directed to the conduct of the vote shall be heard immediately after the conclusion of the vote and before the vote is announced by the chair. All questions shall be determined by a majority vote of the Board of Appeals members present. That's also from the bylaws, Article 7, Section B. The decision of the Board of Appeals shall be final unless overruled by a 2/3 vote of the State Executive Committee at any regular or special meeting. And that's also from the bylaws, Article 7, Section C. Okay, does everybody understand the rules as they are right now? And is there any motion to amend any of the rules from the board?
I would like to make a motion to amend, and I'm not exactly sure where we would place it, but to have at your discretion to lengthen the time that any of the commentators have in case there needs to be additional time given to them to get everything that they need to say out.
Does the board understand the amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion of the amendment? Any amendment to the amendment? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Ayes appears to have it. The ayes do have it. So Brian, do you know where we could put that in?
Yes, I believe that will be an addendum under item G in the first part.
Okay.
So we will add an H to that. I'm not able to add it right now because I'm screen
All right.
sharing.
Do all parties understand the change to the rule?
Yes.
Okay. That's just
Yes,
to
Mr.
give,
Chairman.
okay, we're good. All right. Well, we are going to begin the consideration of the grievance and call the grievant, Ms. Selena Vickers, for her presentation of the grievance that was brought forward.
Okay, thank you all. I just wanted to say I'm actually working out of a hotel room and my internet has been spotty. So if I did get disconnected, Ryan, just kind of watch for me to come back in, please. So on October 1st, 2022, I sought to attend the West Virginia Federation Democratic Women meeting as an observer, not as a participant. I sat quietly in the back of the room for some time, about 10 or 15 minutes. Anna Gillespie, the president of the West Virginia Federation Democratic Women, started the meeting and asked me over the microphone, asked me to leave because I was not a delegate, member, or a guest of the Federation and therefore was not authorized to be there. I told her that it was my understanding that it was a public meeting, that all Democratic Party meetings are open to the public per the rules of the Democratic Party. Despite the fact that for many years, the Federation has had a voting member on the executive committee, on October 1st, both Gillespie and BF4 insisted to me that the Federation was not legally affiliated or associated with the Democratic Party, and therefore it was not bound by the rules of and the policies of the Democratic Party. They continued to insist that I must leave the meeting. I continued to insist on my rights to observe the meeting. Hotel security was called to have me ejected. Hotel security said they would require, that would require involvement with the local police. Ms. Gillespie came up to me and asked me privately to please leave. We discussed my understanding that this was a public meeting, She insisted that the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women was not a part of the Democratic Party and did not have to comply with Democratic Party rules. I offered to Gillespie that if she would announce publicly to the meeting participants, which had already been convened, what she told me about their not having to follow Democratic Party rules. And if she would do that, and that they were not subject to, her understanding was that they were not subject to the rules and procedures and policies of the party, that I would voluntarily leave the meeting. She agreed to do that. She promptly went to the podium. She announced to the meeting that the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women does not follow the rules of the Democratic Party, the national charter, or any Democratic Party rules, whereupon I voluntarily left the premises. The issue before you is very straightforward and not complicated. Is the West Virginia Federation recognized, and we'll talk about that term in a minute, recognized under the authority of the charter of the Democratic Party and the West Virginia Democratic Party Executive Committee, by which recognition the West Virginia Federation is permitted to have one voting member on the West Virginia Democratic Party Executive Committee, or as asserted by Ms. Gillespie and Ms. Beafor, the president of the Federation, and Ms. Beafor, the historian, that the Federation is not legally affiliated, associated with the Democratic Party, and thus is not subject to the bylaws, other procedures and policies of the Democratic Party, nor of the charter of the National Democratic Party, or the DNC bylaws, policies, procedures of the National Democratic Party. In the event that this board determines that the Federation is not legally affiliated or associated with the party, then the board must order that the Federation not have voting membership on the West Virginia Democratic Party Executive Committee, and in addition, that the Federation may not use the term Democratic in its name. In addition, the board must order that the county chapters of the Federation, the county clubs, are not eligible to have voting members on the county Democratic committees, nor may such federations include the phrase Democratic in their titles. I also want to say that it is my hope that we are considered the part of the Democratic Party, and then comply with the Democratic Party rules. Just a second, let me figure out. There we go. Ryan, could I have permission to share my screen, please?
Yes, you should have, all participants should have the ability to.
Okay. All right, I apologize, I didn't see that earlier. And I would like to, Chair Pushkin, at some point during this presentation, I feel I'll go into over 15 minutes, and I request your permission ahead of time to do that.
So I'm given some discretion, but just go.
Okay. All right. So the part of the charter that is really being discussed is a particular amendment that was adopted in October. Just so you know, the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee, the only way that you can get charter amendments and rules in the Democratic Party is through the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee. Jim Roosevelt, he is the co-chair, and in my exhibits, I gave you access to this meeting, the video of this meeting, and I'm going to play some clips from that meeting. But just so you know, Jim Roosevelt has been the co-chair of that committee for 27 years. Charter and bylaws. This is the actual part that we're discussing. Our Charter Article 10, Section 3. It says that each official body of the Democratic Party is recognized by or created under the authority of this charter shall adopt and conduct its affairs in accordance with written rules, which rules shall be consistent with this charter. So the first thing that we're going to kind of focus on is the term recognized, which was discussed at this meeting on August the 5th. It was like almost an 8-hour meeting. 17 minutes were devoted to just this discussion. So I'm going to play this clip.
This becomes a question of what amounts to both. Creation is one thing, that's pretty clear. Recognized is something else. And sometimes I think that is indicated by having reserved members on the DNC. But I actually think recognized can be identified by the use of the word democratic. We, a group that decides to call itself the Democratic Political Association, we would probably sue them for using our name without our permission. This becomes.
So in terms of what he just said, part of that is recognized is having automatic seats. So as you know, the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women is an state affiliate of the National Federation of Democratic Women. And so here in the charter, this is the charter, the where it's highlighted, Federation of Democratic Women is mentioned as part of the National Committee. Again, in the bylaws in a different section, mentions the president of the National Federation of Democratic Women and 2 additional members. These are clearly recognized members of the DNC. This is another part of that same discussion where Joanne Dowdell specifically asks about an example of a recognized body. Sorry.
What would be an example of an official body recognized by? Is there an example of that?
Recognized by, but not created by.
Correct.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
It's not it would not be the councils, I don't believe. I think it would be something like the Federation of Democratic Women. I don't think the charter creates.
The Democratic Governors Association might be one, Carol.
I'm sorry?
Democratic Governors Association.
Yeah,
might be
the
one.
Democratic Governors Association.
Yeah.
The charter doesn't create organizations other than, I guess, the DNC itself, but we do recognize a bunch of them. Now, whether we can enforce anything on the DGA, I don't know, but I think we could say that if you want to be recognized by us and have membership on the DNC, we could say you can't have membership if you're I don't know, the Federation of Democratic Women, if they were doing something that we didn't approve of.
So you saw in that clip, the Federation of Democratic Women was mentioned specifically as an example of recognized bodies. The other part of this particular part of the charter, it talks about, it's the same wording, but it talks about the official body. But instead of the recognition, I want to focus now on this part that says shall adopt and conduct its affairs in accordance with written rules, which rules shall be consistent with this charter. So it's saying that each official body recognized, and we've determined that it is an official body, and it has to conduct its affairs in accordance with the rules. So here is the part of the charter that I maintain that the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women are not being consistent with. This is Charter Article 9, Section 11. All meetings of the Democratic National Committee, the Executive Committee, and all other official party committees, commissions, and bodies shall be open to the public. There's one exception, and that's the DNC Budget and Finance Committee. So this is part of the Democratic Party being an open party. And this is a key tenet of the Democratic Party, and all entities, official bodies, and their affiliates, just like our county committees, have to follow this rule as well. It's an official body and their affiliates. This is Jim Roosevelt again talking about this amendment and the intent.
Is if you read this, it requires these bodies to conduct their affairs in accordance with written rules, which they've adopted, which rules must be consistent with these with this charter and the bylaws and resolutions adopted by the National Convention, that they have to operate under rules that are consistent. They can't be standing out there as an outlier to our rules regarding openness and diversity and so on. The intent is to make sure that the general principles followed and publicized at their rules are consistent with the DNC charter and bylaws.
Chair Roosevelt specifically mentioned in there that these organizations cannot be outliers in terms of the rules, in terms of things like openness and diversity. He specifically mentioned openness. So the public, all Democratic parties are open to the public, is that specific charter wording about openness. Here are the West Virginia Democratic Party bylaws in the introduction. This goes to somewhat to jurisdiction, which they brought up in their December letter, that the West Virginia Democratic Party Board of Appeals is not the correct jurisdiction. Under the bylaws, it's very clear that these bylaws the Democratic Party shall conduct its affairs in accordance with the Democratic National Committee charter and bylaws. Under the powers of the Executive Committee, it says that the Democratic Executive Committee is the supreme governing authority and shall have control and supervision over all matters relating to or affecting party organizations, and all political committees, clubs, and organizations, incorporated or unincorporated, posing as a segment of the Democratic Party within the state, shall be subordinate to, thereto, and under its direction. And under the specific powers of the Board of Appeal, Executive Committee through the Board of Appeals shall have jurisdiction over any controversy, the outcome of which will affect the interest of the party in West Virginia. So it's clear that any organization, including the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women, is under the authority of the Democratic Party, West Virginia Democratic Party, and that the Board of Appeals has jurisdiction over this matter. This is in terms of enforcement. Chair Roosevelt talks about, well, what happens? What are some things that they could do if somebody, some organization was not in compliance with the charter?
Section 3. And they'd say, well, you can't enforce that. And we'd say, yeah, we can get to work and come up with some things that do enforce that. We can take away your DNC seats. We can prohibit you from receiving any funding or use of the building, and so on and so forth. So it's not all wrapped up in a package, but it expresses an intent that there be consistency with the important principles.
So those are examples. Taking away DNC seats or other kind of perks are the way that they could enforce this role if they needed to, and therefore the West Virginia Democratic Party could use those same type of enforcements if needed.
Section 3.
My basic request or remedy that I'm proposing is that there's sort of like two options. If this board finds that the Federation is not a part of the Democratic Party, then the board should say that the Federation will not be recognized by the party, will not have a representation on the executive committee, will not be allowed to use the term Democratic in their name, will not have access to VAN, the Voter Access Network database, will not be listed as a party organization on the website, and that county clubs that are affiliated with the Federation of Democratic Women would not have representation on their county Democratic Executive Committee. However, if this board finds that the Federation is a part of the Democratic Party, then I believe that the board should rule that the official actions of the Federation on October 1 are null and void, and those actions be vacated. That the Federation must adopt bylaws that are consistent with the National Charter, DNC bylaws, and the West Virginia Democratic Party bylaws. That the Federation must convene a new meeting that fully complies with party rules to complete their the agenda that they had on October 1. That the Federation president shall not be recognized as an West Virginia Democratic Party Executive Committee member until the Federation adopts new bylaws in full compliance with party rules that are approved by the Executive Committee. And that the Federation County and District Club presidents not be recognized as member of their county Democratic Executive Committee until a new federation bylaws are adopted in full compliance with the party rules. You did not mention and I read about calling witnesses. If I have time and if it's allowed, I'd like to ask Ms. Gillespie some questions. If not, the only thing, well, actually, let me just hear what you have to say about that, Mike.
Ryan, how long, where are we at on time?
That took 18 minutes.
Okay, at this point, I will give 18 minutes to the respondents and then allow for we could continue discussion at I think during the I would say I would allow for that during the debate period. But at this point, I would go ahead and allow the respondents to present.
Well, Mike, the only other thing that I wanted to add, other than asking the questions, is that in the 10 points that they sent out in, I think it was December the 19th, as reasons to dismiss, I wanted to comment and deny some of that, and I'll go into detail if I have time.
Well, I mean, it's obvious we haven't dismissed it. We're hearing it now. So I would, I guess that would, to me, that'd be a moot point at this point, because we're having the hearing. So I said I would go ahead and call on the respondents to make their presentation at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Yes.
Good
morning.
afternoon. I'm Karen Correa. I'm the chair of the advisory committee of the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women. And we have submitted a response to Ms. Vickers' grievance. And with your permission, I would like to review some of the items that we listed in the response. We are asking for dismissal of the grievance based on the following. Number one, the incident in question occurred on October the 1st. The grievance filed by Ms. Vickers was received by President Anna Gillespie by email on October the 31st at 10:03 p.m. And this is in violation of the necessary 30-day notice. Number two, the grievance was filed with the wrong entity. The West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women is a member of the National Federation of Democratic Women, and our bylaws are governed by the national organization. We are a membership organization, chartered individual clubs from around the state pay annual per capita dues based on their respective membership to be affiliated with the Federation. The Federation sends out an official call to the annual meeting, traditionally held in the fall of each year, Each club president receives a president's handbook, which is designed to prepare members for attendance at the event. The requirements to attend and participate are listed by category with deadlines, including registration, membership, bylaws, resolutions, just to name a few. The standing rules, which is protocol for the meeting, are read to the members in attendance immediately following the opening remarks by the president. Standing rule number 3, each delegate must be certified to the chair of the Credentials Committee. Ms. Vickers was not registered to attend this meeting and so is not certified to be in attendance. Over 100 participants followed the proper procedures and paid club dues and a registration fee to be in attendance for this meeting. Number 7, Fayette County does not have a federated Democratic women's organization, which allows for women without a club in their county to join individually. Ms. Vickers has not paid for membership and therefore is not a direct federated member. Ms. Vickers is a former president of the Fayette County Democratic Women United. She attended the 55th annual meeting in 2019, held in Huntington, West Virginia. She and her delegation of attendees followed the rules to attend as described above. Knowing this, we contend Ms. Vickers intentionally violated the rules with her attendance, intentionally disrupted the meeting, and subsequently understood that she would be asked to leave. Ms. Vickers was politely asked to leave the meeting by both President Anna Gillespie and historian Belinda Beafor. She refused, at which time the Charleston Marriott Hotel security was called and asked to assist. Ms. Vickers continued to refuse. The hotel then called the Charleston police, who arrived on the scene, entered our meeting space, and only then did she leave, causing significant disruption and embarrassment to the West Virginia Federation Democratic Women meeting and its invited guest speaker who was in attendance. In addition, her representation as a Democratic Party leader was improper and most embarrassing for the West Virginia Democratic Party. The purpose of the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women is to unite Democratic women into a group working together for the success of the Democratic Party. Many of our members were terribly upset with the manner in which Ms. Vickers conducted herself, and some were fearful of what could happen. Nationally, groups such as the National Federation of Democratic Women, the DCCC, the DNC, the ASDC, the DSCC, and the Young Democrats all practice and work for the betterment of the Democratic Party and work together, but at the same time, they maintain their own rules and bylaws and executive sessions where non-members are not permitted to attend. Once again, we ask that this grievance be dismissed and we move forward in a positive manner to get Democrats back on track. Thank you for your consideration of our request. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the presentation. And I believe there was still time allowed if any of the other respondents had anything to add. Okay, thank you. At this point, we're going to start with some questions from the board, if that's okay. And I know that Ms. Vickers just asked if she could ask questions. I would say wait until let's see what the questions that the board asks, and maybe we can get that information, make that information known that way. I'd like to start off with just a couple of questions, if that's okay. And my first question is for Ms. Vickers. Now, you are the video that you were playing from the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee. That was a meeting that took place when?
October 5, 2022.
Okay, that took place this past October,
Yes,
or is that when it was voted on?
that meeting of that amendment, when they were discussing that, when the Rules and Bylaws Committee passed that, was October 5, 2022. After there were other amendments, those were then sent out to all of the DNC members that then met, I think it was on September the 10th in Maryland, and that's when the DNC approved that amendment. With that said, I want to be clear that even though that amendment was, just sort of luckily very thoroughly discussed, there are other parts of that where Roosevelt states that this is nothing new. That amendment, by putting recognize in there, is codifying what at least has been his understanding all along.
Well, so that was the change, adding recognized to create recognized or created by. And you're telling me that was voted on October 5th of this past year, or before that?
By the DNC, it was approved by the DNC on September 10, 2022.
Okay, when was the meet? Okay, maybe you misspoke.
That meeting was, they had a committee meeting, Rules and Bylaws committee meeting in early August. It was approved by the DNC.
You said October. Okay, that's what I thought. You said October. That's why I was confused.
Sorry. I am so sorry. Yeah, that was August 5.
August. Okay,
that's when that meeting was, and that video. And then the full DNC approved those changes. I believe you were one of the ones that voted on it.
That was in September.
That was September 10, I believe.
Okay, so it was voted on. That change happened on September 10th. And then the meeting that you're talking about with the Federation was October 1st, correct? Okay.
Yes. And again, that was codifying it, but it has been the practice.
I have a question for Korea.
Yes.
At the October 1st meeting, was the Federation, were you during the meeting in question? Was that a meeting was that an executive session?
Yes, it was.
You were in executive session?
Yes, that is our business meeting, and that is considered our executive session meeting, in which delegates, alternates are able to attend, and our presentations are made and resolutions are introduced, and it's our business executive session.
Just in general terms, without too much detail, what was being voted on?
You mean during that meeting on that day after Ms. Vickers?
Was it bylaws? Was it a budget, or what was just in general terms?
Well, we have an entire agenda, and in the agenda, it includes bylaws, it includes resolutions, it includes voting on when the next meeting for the annual meeting is going to be held, any kind of anything that is brought up in front of the Federation can be voted upon. It's normally a 3-hour meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to let the board ask questions at this point.
I have some questions. My first ones are to Ms. Vickers, I should say, probably not Selena.
Yes.
The House caucus and the Senate caucus are also members and have seats on the state executive committee, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have open meetings. How come you're just looking at the Federation versus them?
Well, I've never tried to attend a House or Senate caucus meeting, and I've never. Yeah, I'm just saying that I don't think that I hear your point, but I don't think that it's relevant for a couple reasons. One is that this challenge or this grievance is specifically about one particular incident. Whereas, this is about the Federation of Democratic Women. The other thing is that I think that that probably my sort of understanding of caucus meetings and that sort of thing is it's sort of in a different category that is not under this charter that I'm aware of. That certainly,
well, I mean, but they're
isn't
recognized.
listed. Yeah, but like the DC, these different organizations that Ms. Correa mentioned, the D trip. I don't know that they're
DGM.
specifically listed in the charter, but the legislative council is the Democratic Governors Association, the Democratic Municipal Officials Association. All of those are listed, and in that discussion that Roosevelt, they talked a lot about the Democratic Governors Association. There was one gentleman in particular, Stuart Applebaum, who had a lot of reservations about this amendment because of groups like the Democratic Governors Association, and should they be held to all of these requirements? And Roosevelt answered a lot of those questions. He answered all of those questions, and at the end, Mr. Applebaum moved the adoption of the amendment, and they all passed unanimously. So I'm not sure where the line is in terms of things like you're mentioning, like the House caucus, the Senate caucus. I don't know where that line is drawn. It's very clear to me that the Federation of Democratic Women is clearly on the side of they have to follow the charter in terms of openness.
Why do you? I listened to that whole entire meeting as well, and I'm just curious because they specifically say all of them. They don't say they're the most specific that they were. If you listen to the entirety of that meeting, was for the state parties because they are not created by, they are recognized by, and they said several times that the intent of the additional language was specifically for the state parties, but on principle, all of the additional recognized by outlying committees and groups should stay on principle within there. But they were very, very in the way that I understood it, the intentions were clearly, and I think clearly defined for the state parties. And then it was everything else was in addition on the recognized by. But these are just questions because I just thought, we're literally going through a House caucus thing right now where there's a lot of, issues in the state party. And I'm just curious as to the focus on just the Democratic women, especially when I was just this rule, this additional language was added August 5th, passed by that committee, but then wasn't even voted on until September. And then you're at a meeting on October 1st, which it would have been a very brand new type of change in the language by any, to have it such a strong definition of this is what they have to follow, that doesn't give them a lot of time. And if you look at the deadlines in which the Federation have always had to go by, which if you were president, you would have gotten one of those books whenever you're registering and getting the annual membership stuff and everything that you have to fall within. I'm just wondering if that what your cognitive reasoning was for not thinking about, the structure that you as a president would have lived by in 2019, and that I did as a president before in the Democratic woman, knowing that the bylaws have a deadline of when any changes that they may be presented have to be filled so they could get it out to all of the members in total, so that they could hear from, like, each county just represents a delegate. So their delegates, the counties have to see any changes, sent out so that they could tell their delegates how they want them to vote. And so I'm just wondering, that doesn't even give them time to do any of that, to change any structure that may have changed if they were to then all of a sudden look at that. So I'm just trying to figure out, you know, the reasoning here on the timeline, especially knowing that that was so fresh.
Well, really good questions, and a couple of things. You're right. When the way that it was discussed, David McDonald, he on the Rules and Bylaws Committee, he said, "Well, when we put that in there, we were just really initiating that for state parties because we thought it'd be important for all the state parties to have their rules on the website and understand that they're recognized, blah, blah, blah." And so, but then Ms. Dowdell asked, she wanted an example of what would be an example of a group, an official body that was recognized but not created by the charter. And then Carol Fowler, she gave the example of Federation of Democratic Women. Jim Roosevelt and Mignon Moore mentioned the Governors Association, the Municipal Officials Association, and so on. And then I think they mentioned several others throughout that. So it kind of evolved into a pretty deep discussion. And I'll be honest, I was surprised with that Jim Roosevelt went into such detail about this recognition and what recognition meant. So anyway, it was pretty fortunate in terms of this grievance. In terms of the other thing that you said, and I mentioned this to Mike also, somewhere in there, and I don't know that I have that queued up. I could try if you wanted for me to find it, but this isn't something new in terms of how they have viewed these official bodies. They put that in there, that recognition, and had the discussion about that intent, but they were basically codifying something from that discussion that Roosevelt had that had been their understanding all along. So, I don't know that it's completely relevant to go way into history, but I've had this discussion with Anna and with Ms. Correa and mostly with Belinda, in the past about that the Federation of Democratic Women is a part of the Democratic Party and is bound to follow the rules. So Article 9, Section 12 or 15, whatever that is, about the open parties, that has always been around, that all official bodies of the Democratic Party have to have open meetings. They have always contended that they are not a part of the Democratic Party. So that's nothing new. They have always been a part of it. They have not recognized, they being Belinda and Anna, and I believe Ms. Corey as well, have not recognized that. So that part of the charter has been in effect since I think like 1968 or something like that. And they've always been required to follow that.
I think, yeah, okay. When they follow the charter, like things that wouldn't make any sense would be like equal division, like the
Right.
DNC requires men and women. It's only a women's group.
Right, you're right.
So there's absolutely no way that they could follow the charter.
Right. Well,
that's-
but they talk about consistent. I mean, there's no way that the Democratic Governors Association could meet equal division either, because what if there's 24 Democratic governors, female, and one male? That's your association. And I don't know who else is in there, but they would not be able to meet that. But and Roosevelt, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but they talked about being consistent with the principles. Is it open? Is it diverse? Is it, they even at one point he talked about, we're not talking about quorums. You don't have to have the exact same bylaws. You don't have to have everything, but the key tenets of the party, if you're going outside that, that's the problem. And openness in public meetings is a huge part of the Democratic Party.
Well, but they do have open meetings. I mean, every county has an open meeting. There's parts of, isn't that true?
Are you talking about the Federation meetings?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're open or not. I suspect that they're not.
Everyone I've ever attended, they happen to be, and I'll ask Karen that shortly. But so this is their convention. How does like, are there any other organizations like does the DGA have a business meeting that's open to everybody?
I would imagine that they do. I know that the ASDC does, and I've attended them.
I mean, but like, okay, the DCCC.
I don't know.
I don't think they do, but I
don't
couldn't
know.
tell you. I mean, so I'm just trying to figure out, you know, I don't know. I've planned a state convention for the Federation of Democratic Women, and I don't know if their intent has ever been to be exclusive, because of the fact that you're trying to have enough space for everybody when you're renting rooms. And so when you're trying to plan the numbers, that's where the membership typically goes from. And so that was something that I can kind of understand. It's not like when you go to a county, they're all open, then you elect who your delegates are to represent your club, and then they go. And I don't know, you know, does that mean that they're trying to exclude people, or does that mean that that's how their organization has been working for a while? So, and then I just started thinking about all of the other organizations that are Democratic, that have seats even just like the Senate and the House. And I've never known those to ever be open. Those are all closed meetings.
And they're very good questions, and they're questions that I've had as well. And I think there's a line somewhere. I don't know exactly where that line is, but I firmly believe that the Federation of Democratic Women is on the side of they must comply with the charter and bylaws in terms of that that openness key. And just one other thing that I wanted to say, in their own bylaws, in the West Virginia Federation Democratic bylaws, it says under their meetings, let me see, it's Article 6, Section 3C, any member of the Federation may attend the annual meeting. However, only certified and registered delegates may vote at the annual meeting. So I say that in turn, not that I was a member, but what that says to me is that any member of may attend. So when they are planning the meeting, obviously you need to have seats for your delegates, for your alternates, and that sort of thing. But you also have to have room for observers, and their own bylaws say that if you're a member that you can attend. It doesn't say, I don't see anything in here about guests, which are also allowed, but you'd have to plan for that as well. And just for the record, it was a very big room with a lot of space.
There was plenty of seating.
Yes,
okay. Thank you. Thanks, Selena, or Miss Vickers. I appreciate it. And I do have a question for, it's weird.
We are going a little bit over the time here. I will go ahead and ask questions of the respondent, and then I'm just let the other board members know I'm going to allow for time for them to ask questions as well. But go ahead.
I'm sorry. I don't mean
That's
to.
okay. It's okay. No. Those are all good questions. Go ahead.
And then just as for Miss Coria. I'm curious. I have always thought that as long as you were registered, you didn't have to be a voting member to sit in the meetings, like in the back of the room. Did that change?
So you can register with your club as a delegate, an alternate, or you can register as a guest. And if you are a guest, then you are permitted to be, because you are registered, in certain parts of the meetings that normally a walk-in individual may not be allowed to attend. So just to be clear, if Ms. Vickers had attended on Friday evening an auction that has been held annually for almost 53 years, that auction is open to the public. It's open to Democrats who would like to attend. I'm sure that over the years, every chair, many elected officials, you yourself, Ms. Miley, I'm sure have been in attendance at that annual auction, in which we have had individuals from the county that are elected officials that are not coming to the rest of the meeting they would be coming in and attending the auction. our meeting actually starts on Friday afternoon when we have our opening session. And that meeting is open to walk-in individuals. And so if a Democratic female or an associate member, a Democrat of any gender wanted to attend our opening session at 2:00 on Friday afternoon, they can come in and sit in the meeting and they will be part of our opening session. The difference is that on Saturday morning, traditionally, when we have our business session, that is when delegates and alternates register to attend the meeting and are allowed to vote and to discuss and to listen to different parts of our meeting in which we discuss important matters to the Federation, including finances, including strategy, that if you are not registered to the meeting, then, it just makes it more difficult for us to recognize who the people are that could be in attendance. So imagine having an open meeting and anybody could come in. And if it was a Democratic Executive Committee meeting, that you have a Republican walk in the room in the middle of discussing finances about the Democratic Party. I mean, there's a good reason for having registration. Does that answer your question?
It does. So you guys have never had during business meetings people that were not delegates or alternates in the back of the room
We had
observing?
guests. Yeah, no, registered guests in the back of the room, yes, but they're registered.
Registered.
That's correct. During the business session, correct.
Did you guys know about the change in the language where they added the recognized by in September?
Well, personally,
In
I
the-
did not. And I don't know if anyone on the board recognized that there was a change made. But again, this is a business session that traditionally for 53 years, we've had annual meetings and we have conducted these meetings in the same manner for 53 years as far as the protocol of holding the meetings. It's why we have standing rules. And, having the standing rules allows us to have an organized meeting that is attended by members who are like-minded, who have an agenda to discuss with the Democratic women. I mean, this is very important to us that we follow a protocol so that we have a semblance of understanding of what they can expect. And there is a safety factor involved as well. So, I am disappointed if someone would imagine that we would want to keep out a Democratic woman from attending our meeting. That is the last thing that we would want to do.
I wonder if I question, I should say, just having an opportunity for people that may not be registered sit in the back as long as they're not disruptive, if that would make anything not happen the way that it's going as it is now. I mean, do you think it would be so chaotic if there's a designated area that you couldn't continue with what you're doing? And if things get disruptive, then you can always just, as you have, just stop the meeting and have them removed. But I mean, does that would be your biggest concern?
Well, first of all, we've not had anyone come in and ask to sit in the back of the room. I mean, that doesn't usually happen. I've never seen it happen. And again, we allow for guest registration. And so each county has an opportunity to send out a call to any of their members, associate members, family, friends, husbands, children. I mean, for years, my husband attended an annual meeting and he was registered. And so we give everyone an opportunity to register and attend.
But what if
One more
there's
question.
not a county club?
If there's not a county club, I think if you'll refer to the statement that we made, the individual members that live in a county have an opportunity to become what's called a direct federated member. They are direct to our organization. They pay a fee to be that direct federated member, and then they can also come to our annual meetings.
So when you mentioned pay a fee, and I've heard dues a couple of times, and that the Federation is to unite Democrat women, are you excluding people based on money? Maybe finances may be an issue with somebody who would like to be a member, but are they're unable to because of dues or for that to pay that membership. I'm just curious.
Our dues are very reasonable. They are $5 per year for a direct federated member. The individual organizations in each county pay a per capita dues of $2 per member, you see. So we've made it as reasonable as we can to ensure that Democratic women feel that we are open and available to them. And also for many, many years, there have been many of us that will step up and we will pay the dues for someone who isn't able to pay. I mean, we do everything to include membership.
One more question. Whenever this came up, did you guys reach out to any other state federations to see if things are done differently, or if this has ever been a case in any other states that are part of the National Federation? Or did you get any guidance also from the federations? I guess there's two questions.
Sure. And so you're referring to when this grievance occurred, is that correct? Mm-hmm. So first of all, we are in compliance with the National Federation of Democratic Women's bylaws. And so if you read their bylaws, or if you've ever attended a National Federation of Democratic Women's organization, they have the same registration process that we do. And they have the same organizational tools that are used to ensure that women have time to register and understand that and what the registration involves and how they can attend. And so each state follows those guidelines and tools that are made available from National. And I don't know of another state that is doing things differently than what we are for this particular business session executive meeting. It's not about the entire meeting. It's not about trying to keep individuals from joining us in discussion, or, it's about having an opportunity for those members that are registered as delegates and alternates and guests to come together from their individual clubs and discuss the important issues that the Federation has in front of them.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
I have one question for Ms. Gillespie. Is the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women, are they a part of the Democratic Party? And do you have to follow the Democratic Party rules?
That information is in our response, and I have no further comment.
So was Ms. Vickers offered to register and pay the day of the meeting?
Ms. Corey, are you representing the Federation?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you want to, did you hear the question?
I did hear the question. Ms. Elkins?
Yes.
I'll answer the question for you. To the best of my knowledge, our registration packet includes deadlines. And so because we were at that point already in session in the meeting, then our registration was closed. And we were not able to add any additional people to our registration because we followed our own rules, which were set up to ensure that we had a meeting that provided everything that was promised to the 100 participants that had already registered and had followed the guidelines presented to them.
Okay, and I'm looking in the response in the email, and I'm not finding anywhere where when I asked the question, if the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women is a part of the Democratic Party, I'm not seeing that. If someone could direct me, I would appreciate that on where that would be. And if Ms. Gillespie is unable to answer the question, if Ms. Correa, if you are answering on behalf of the Federation, are you allowed to respond to why, if, you know, are you a part of the Democratic Party or have to follow the rules?
You know, Ms. Elkins, this is a unfortunate situation that has occurred, because I think that your question is a response that requires more explanation than was allowed, and you are quoting something that was said, you know, during our annual meeting, at a point when there was frustration and there was anxiety on the fact that Ms. Vickers was not interested in leaving our meeting. So let me be clear by saying this. Democratic women in West Virginia have worked for more than 60 years under the Federation and have worked with the Democratic Party side by side to elect Democrats on every level, whether it be local, state, or federal. And they will continue to do so because that's what we do. And the fact that what's being questioned is our relationship to the Democratic Party. Of course, we have a relationship with them. And of course, we want to work side by side with them. We do have specific bylaws that the Federation is guided by because we are a membership organization. And so, depending upon the Democratic Party rule that somebody would be referring to, we certainly would not want to be in a position where we did not follow their advice. But we are specifically only talking about something that occurred at our meeting in a session that was intended for registered members to be there. That's what this is all about. It's not about whether or not we don't want to follow the guidelines or the policy of the Democratic Party. That is ridiculous. I'm sorry. Of course, we're going to work side by side with the Democratic Party. Of course, we're going to work with the chair of the Democratic Party. We're going to work with the chair in every county because that's what we do.
So not a yes or a no. Okay.
Not a yes or a no. Too complicated. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Elkins. Mr. Thompson, you haven't had a chance to ask any questions yet. I know we've gone way over with this segment, but I think we've gotten some important information here, and I want to give all the board members a chance to ask questions.
Miss Correa, you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How difficult is the registration process for an individual who wanted to attend this meeting or any other meeting of the Federation?
Well, it's quite simple because each individual county, we have clubs in over 30 counties right now. The club president receives a handbook with a registration packet months in advance, and the members of the organization within that county are given notice to when the meeting will be. As a matter of fact, the meeting is announced a year in advance, as it was this past October, as to where the meeting will be held, the date of the meeting, the location of the meeting. And so club presidents are notified up to 6 months in advance, 7 months of the meeting. And then club presidents and members of the clubs can then reach out to their membership and to other Democrats. The meeting is announced on our Facebook page. It's announced on our website. It's announced on the Democratic Party website. It's announced on the Democratic Party Facebook page. And so we do as much as we can to encourage Democrats from around the state to attend our meeting. And the registration process is simple because it's just an application piece of paper that goes into the county or can come directly to the Federation. There is an application also online. And so we just do the best we can.
Is there a fee?
Yes, there is. And the fee is based on the expenses that may be incurred for that particular year. But we've always kept it extremely reasonable. I'd be happy to tell you that last year's fee was $60, which is a fee that includes all meals through the entire Federation 3-day weekend. It includes access to all the activities. It will include workbooks and any other materials that are passed out by the Federation.
Someone mentioned this during the hearing a while back. And can anyone attend the meeting who registers? Or, I mean, could a Republican register and attend the meeting?
And so that's our hope that does not happen, of course. And that's why members that register are actually certified by a membership committee that ensures that the individuals that are registering are Democrats. We go through that process. It's very important to do that because certainly with an open meeting, a Republican could easily not be recognized by imagine a walk-up with someone that we didn't recognize, and we don't want to refuse them entrance. But, of course, in today's world, we do have the internet, and some of us do have access to the voter file. So that makes it easier, but certainly something could happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Quick follow-up question. Ms. Correa, so you said a registered guest can attend all meetings, but they have to register by a certain deadline?
Yes, sir.
So if somebody's there at the same place, well, I'm a Democrat, I'd like to sit in, they can't just walk up and pay a fee and register?
So we have not traditionally accepted walk-in membership for many reasons, including the fact that we do arrange in advance.
Excuse me,
for-
not walk-in membership to register as a guest, to be a guest. There's a difference between guest and membership, right?
Correct. And
Yeah.
I apologize. I didn't mean to say membership.
Mhm.
So if you were to try and attend, not as the chair, but if you were to try and attend on the day of our event to register in order to attend our meeting, the difficulty lies in the preparation and the arrangements that we make in advance for everything that's done at that meeting. So there is the hotel reservations, there are food arrangements, there are individual packets of information, there are program books, there are registration tags, there are credentials, there are everything that we go through to ensure that those people that are attending are taken care of properly. I mean, when you have a meeting and you have, I mean, the last 2 years with COVID certainly have been difficult for us because we haven't had the turnout that we've anticipated. So at this last meeting, we had a few over 100 people attend. That's one of the smallest meetings we've ever had. We normally have 300 women in attendance. So when you have 300 registered guests, you have to make sure that everything is so organized so that everything moves smoothly along and so that you are presenting everything accordingly.
At this business meeting, you didn't have 300 women, though, right?
We did not.
So there were, I'm just going to get to you had empty seats. Did anybody go to Ms. Vickers and say, would you care to register as a guest?
I can't answer that. I apologize. I was sitting on the other end of the hall. And so if in fact Ms. Vickers was invited to register, I just don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay. At this business meeting, was there any discussion of strategy, targeting for the upcoming election?
Yes, there was.
There was. Okay.
Yes, there was.
All right. Ms. Vickers, quick question. Thank you very much, Ms. Correa.
You're welcome.
Did anyone offer to allow you to register as a guest?
No, but I specifically asked if I could. I offered, even though I don't think that I should have had to pay because they're required under the DNC charter to have public meetings. But
I'm just asking, was the offer made?
They did not offer. I asked if I could, and they said that I could not.
Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the brief summary from the grievant and respondent. You got the floor now, Ms. Vickers, if you would go ahead and offer your summary.
You'd said if there was something that was not addressed in the questions that I could ask Ms. Gillespie a question. Could I some questions? Would that be allowable?
It appears Ms. Gillespie is not answering questions as Ms. Correa is speaking for the Federation.
All right, could I play a video clip then, or not? A clip.
Sure, as part of your summary. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, give me just a second. To explain what this is, the contention that I left because the police were called is not correct. I left because Ms. Gillespie came to me. She asked me, would I please leave? We had this discussion about open meetings, and she said they did not have to follow the bylaws or the DNC rules. And I said, I'll make you a deal. If I believe that all the women in this meeting believe that they are part of the Democratic Party. And if you go up there and you tell them that, what you just told me, that they're not, and they don't have to follow the rules, that she doesn't have to follow the rules of the party, then I'll leave of my own volition. And she agreed to that. She did that. And then I left. And this is that conversation.
No, I want to let you know now that your county club is under the jurisdiction of the state of West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women. We in turn are a federated club throughout the National Federation of America. We and every state in the union has a federated club. We are under our own jurisdiction. We are our own entity. The National Federation of Democratic Women and each state federation, and we are our own entity. We work in conjunction with the Democratic Party. We do not follow their orders or their rules. I am the representative of the Democratic Party because I am the state president. That's how that works. But we are our own entity. Therefore, when you come to an annual meeting, you need to be a registered member or guest to sit in the business session. Today, Selena is neither, so we have asked her to leave. And I did my part and told them how we are affiliated and what we do.
And that the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women does not have to follow the
We don't have to
national
follow
charter.
the Democratic Party
charter.
rules because we follow our own bylaws, our own charters from the national. And like I said, Gail Buckner, the national president, she is supposed to stop by tomorrow morning, and I will discuss this with her. And I will have her send clarification to Mike Pushkin and the West Virginia Democratic Party. We all work together to get Democrats elected. That's our goal. But we do not take orders from anybody of the National Federation. We work in conjunction with the state Democratic Party.
And you do not have to follow the national charter of the
We do not
Democratic.
have to follow any Democratic Party rules.
It's just like a VFW.
Okay, so Ms. Gillespie would not answer that question. She said that about the Federation following the rules. She said that it was in what they sent out on December 19th, which it's not. It doesn't say that they very carefully, as well as Ms. Correa very carefully avoided saying we don't follow the rules of the party and that we're not obligated to. The fact is they don't. I wish they did. That would be my hope, is that this board finds that they are part of the party, and because I think that makes it a stronger organization. It's very clear from the video earlier that they are an official body of the Democratic Party. They are bound by the charter and bylaws, specifically the open meetings policy. I wanted to mention the executive session that Ms. Correa, I think somebody asked her if they were in executive session. No, they were not in executive session. You have to make a motion to go into executive session. No motions were made. They were not in executive session. I've been to other of these meetings that is not executive session. And motions can't be made at all while you're in executive session. So that did not happen. I did, just so you know, in the past, I have seen people register on site. I didn't this time, obviously, but in the past that has happened. Basically, in summary, I think that most of the people on here, while you may have your opinion of me may differ, I think I have been extremely consistent in my pursuit of trying to make the West Virginia Democratic Party stronger, better, open, more diverse, more inclusive. The various challenges and grievances that I have filed have all been based in fact and in wanting the success of this party. This grievance is no different. I think that the Federation of Democratic Women is a wonderful organization, potentially, and that having compliance with the key tenets of the Democratic Party would make this organization stronger, build a very concrete organization for women in West Virginia. I think it's an influential organization. So that is my motivation for doing this. And I think, I feel very strongly that all the facts that have been presented give this board everything that you will need to see that the Federation is recognized by as an official body of the Democratic Party, and therefore is bound to follow the key tenets, including having open meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Correa.
Yes, sir. First of all, let me say that our business session, I just want to be clear about this. Our business session is the executive session part of our annual meeting. And so, just to be clear again, we refer to our business session as the executive session. And that's where delegates, alternates, and registered members, registered guests, so that's registered delegates, registered alternates, and registered guests are able to attend that part of the meeting. That is a private part of where our members come together. The National Federation of Democratic Women and our state federations have our own bylaws and policies and procedures, but we are always in support of the DNC and our state Democratic Party. And so I just would hope that this appeals board would take our statements that we've made previously into consideration when they're making their decision. It is not our intent to have any Democratic women or Democratic men or any Democrats at all not be able to come together with the Federation of Democratic Women and work together with us as we have for over 60 years. And I hope that we can come to some meaningful interaction in the near future where the Democratic women, of course, will continue to show their support for electing officials at every level. Thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize to all parties and board members that I did grant a lot of leeway there, especially with the questioning portion from the board. But I think it's important, and we have a fair hearing today, and that we get all the information that we need to make a decision. At this point, I would entertain a motion from a board member.
Yeah, can I have some clarification, Mike, just to, because this is, the first meeting that I've done this with. Are we like,
same with all of us.
Okay, are we looking at, like, if I make a motion, would it just be like to tackle the first grievance that Ms. Vickers has made, kind of thing? Or I'm sorry that I just need clarification on that, but I'm just not sure.
I believe that the motion can be whatever motion a board member makes, as long as it's ruled in order.
Okay. And I'm just kind of, like I said, spitballing here, but I definitely want to tackle what I believe. And so I think my thought for a motion would be that I do believe that the West Virginia Federation of Democratic Women does fall under the Democratic Party as a recognized group. I do believe that with everything. They have seats on our state executive committee. They have seats on our executive committees. And, we have walked hand in hand with them, the party and the federation, since as long as I've been a Democrat active in the state, which has been more than 20 years. So, I make a motion that we I make a motion that we do clarify that aspect of this situation. Is that in order?
Well, on my reading of I hate to throw in any, it's not opinion, it's in our bylaws. I'm looking for it in our bylaws, but that's kind of that what you're stating is stated in our bylaws.
I just didn't know if that needed to be addressed, since that was a grievance one she wanted to.
Right. I'm looking for it here. Ryan, do you have that? There we go. Thank you. All right. It says in Article 3, under the powers of the State Executive Committee, Section A, the Democratic Executive Committee is the supreme governing authority of the Democratic Party in West Virginia and shall have control and supervision over all matters relating to or affecting the party, organizations, and campaigns. All other political committees, clubs, and organizations, incorporated or unincorporated, posting as a segment of the Democratic Party within the state or within any political subdivision thereof shall be subordinate thereto and under its direction. So it's my opinion that your motion just restates what's in the Article 3, Section A of our bylaws. Does that sound like what you were, or is that different?
I'm just not sure, because I felt like that was one of the clarifications that she was asking us to make. And so that's the only reason I made that motion. But if you feel that that's not something that we have to discuss or clarify, then I'll withdraw the motion. I'll withdraw that motion.
Yeah, I would, I believe it's already stated. So I guess, do any other board members have a motion?
Somebody.
With David, did you chime in?
Says right now it says, okay, I'm just going over this real quick. It's at the conclusion of the, 15 minutes should be allowed for debate on the motion. Well, say the chair will entertain a motion for the disposition of the pending grievance. Then we would allow for debate on that motion. At the conclusion of the debate, a motion shall be put to a vote. In the event the motion is not adopted, basically it says I can recognize Board of Appeals members until a motion is made.
For Kelly, did you or David have something to say? I thought that you guys were both about to speak up, so I didn't want to speak up anymore until you guys said what your piece.
Go ahead.
And Mike just asked if anyone had a motion. My motion would be to follow the rules of the executive committee. And have to see if the Federation would have a new meeting and clarify their new bylaws.
We're going to debate on that motion. Would anyone like to speak on it?
So we would be calling them to have another annual meeting to create another one?
Could that not be done prospectively?
You could move to amend the motion.
I'll move to amend the motion that the relief granted, the grievance in this case, be granted prospectively, so that the organization that we're talking about here will have some notice of future compliance with the party rules.
Could I, and I don't want to make this even more complicated, but even add to that, or can I at least talk about this first? That the state federation has, and the DNC that created this language.
I'm sorry, Lucinda, we've lost part of that. At least on my computer. Yeah.
I'm traveling. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Is there a way we could, if the National Federation bylaws are similar to our state of West Virginia Federation bylaws, and the DNC, which created all of this, has no problem with the National Federation's guidelines, then I feel as though we're taking it a little bit of a step further than what even the DNC and the National Federation would if we could get clarification from those parties, like in that prospective fix in the state federation bylaws. Like, I think personally, all parties here want the groups to follow rules. I really feel like that. I don't feel like the Federation doesn't want to have more women participating in Democrats and all of that. I think there's just definitely an interpretation of what really is the rules. And I have to say, as much as I think Selena has some extremely valid points, I did listen to that bylaw committee and hear it a little bit different. And so I would just, I absolutely agree with Kelly. Like, we want them to follow the rules and stay, with an open type of Democratic Party. I do think that David's right in making it prospective, like give them some time to fix it, maybe at the next meeting when they have time to go through the way that they handle their meetings. But could we also see if they could both clarify from the DNC and the National Federation if they have a problem with the rules as they stand before, we start dictating what they should do. I think that would be very easy to get clarification from the DNC and National Federation is what I'm getting at. So I just think having that input would not be harmful to this motion, but that's just me.
It's kind of hard to formulate the motion without some sort of discussion first, really. And what I'm hearing is that mainly what we're talking about is the principle, and not in the minutia of charters or bylaws, just the principle of openness is what we're discussing here.
Yes.
I also feel that is a decision that needs to be made by the body, not by the president of the organization, not by the historian, but by the body itself. Whether they're going to follow open meeting rules. So I guess when the amendment was made in perspective, and you're also talking about a change that happened a few weeks before this meeting occurred. So could you restate the motion, Mr. Thompson?
Well,
It was an amendment to the original one.
It was a piggyback on to Susan's motion, that we recommend that the Federation adopt a rule or rules which would provide for greater transparency or openness, and then I ask that the motion be amended to make that ruling, in which essentially is a ruling in favor of at least a portion of the grievance, be done prospectively to permit the Federation to adopt or going forward to have meetings or rules regarding meetings, which would be in essential compliance with the rules of the national organizations. And then there was discussion about having the Federation to review those processes in the other organizations is either, I guess, advisory or a clarification of what they're going to do going forward.
Well, I understand the motion now. Do the other board members understand the motion? And this is an amendment to the original one, and really it changes the original motion. So this would, if the amendment is adopted, it would pretty much take the place of the original motion. Does everybody understand the motion?
I believe so.
Any discussion?
I don't have any.
Kelly?
I'm okay.
It's basically a recommendation that this guiding principle of open and transparent meetings be taken back to the Federation and discussed, voted on, and brought back to us, correct? Does that
Yes.
sound about right? Okay, any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Are there any further motions? Well, before I entertain another motion, I just want to really thank everybody for their time today and for showing up and meeting with us here on a holiday, on a federal holiday. I wanted first and foremost to make sure that we had a fair hearing and heard all sides, and also stuck with our basic principles of our party, of the Democratic Party. And it is my sincere hope that this new board doesn't meet very often. I hope we're able to settle our differences in a different fashion. And I sincerely hope that we don't have as many differences and we're able to put personalities aside and work together, because quite frankly, there are too damn few of us right now. And we need to do whatever we can to help rebuild this party, work together, be inclusive, bring more people in, and make a positive change for the people of West Virginia, because people are not going to be well served by the one-sided government that they have right now. And that's what we have, a completely lopsided government, and where I believe will be very harmful to most vulnerable members of the population of West Virginia. So I really thank you for your time, and I would entertain one more motion.
Mike, I just want to say, I think that was a very elegant solution that you guys came up with. I feel good about the future of the Federation, and I appreciate you all. And I do just want to mention that this is the official process for, handling differences. And I think it's much better than social media stuff. So anyway, I don't think it's such a bad thing, but I agree that less is more. Thank you all.
Thank you. Well, one of the members of the board would entertain another motion. Can adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor?